Humma, 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 humma. Hi friends, 29 years of Ik Ho Gaye Hum Aur Tum, and I can still feel the humma humma in us. Every 90s kid will know whom I'm talking about. So let's meet him. His journey from distributing home-produced albums on a scooter in the 80s to becoming a national sensation with his chart-busting film song is remarkable. He is a well-known Indian musician and a playback singer who was awarded Padma Shri in 2007. He is none other than the legendary singer Remo Fernandes. Hello Remo.
Hi.
It's nice to be with you, and I don't believe first of all that I'm with you. I'm sitting in front of you. You're the king of the 90s pop culture.
Oh my God.
We have grown up listening to your songs. For me and Team Limelight, it's an honor to be and sit here in front of you. So tell us, how does it feel to be on Limelight?
It's got its pros and its cons, but I think more pros than cons, of course. And see, the main thing is the work that you do for the sake of the work, you know. The main thing is not, I guess most people don't do it in order to be in the limelight. You know, that is one of the side effects of what you do and of your profession. So, yeah, there are pros and cons, but mostly pros.
We have very few Goans who have reached that mark. You're one of them. So the first instrument which was gifted to you was by your father, the mouth organ. At that point of time, or after that, from the times to come, did you feel that there is any career as a musician?
Not at all. Not at all, you know. First of all, it was not only the first, but the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth instruments were all gifted by my father, of course. Until I started to buy my own instruments, that was much later. But at that time, music was not looked at as a career. I was always told by my parents, it was always understood, in fact, that I had to have a serious career, a serious profession, and that music was a nice hobby, you know, to pick up the guitar in the evenings and sing a song or two at private gatherings and stuff like that. But my father instilled a love for music for me, such a love of music for me that it took over everything else. And I could not think of pursuing another career just for the sake of having a career and not pursuing something that I loved, you know, because it's, and I think all of us are born with something for which we have a passion. It's there with us from birth. And if we are able to discover what that thing is, and if we can make that our profession, we are the happiest people on earth. Because let's face it, I mean, most of our day is spent at work, right? We have to work in order to earn a living. So if most of our day we spend doing something we hate, it's a torture.
There's no point.
And I think the other half, the other important thing is to find a partner, you know, that you really love also, about whom you are passionate also. Because half the day you're at work, the other half you're at home. So if one of them is not the right one, half of your life is gone. And if both of them are not the right one, your full life is
gone.
Is a nightmare. So I feel blessed.
The world is now evolving. Everything has come on social media, and you know, marketing is so easy nowadays. When you used to do it, you used to write songs, poems, and record and do everything together, and then, you know, sit on the scooter and distribute it all. You know, we have done a lot of study on that. So how was it? How difficult was it at this time, then for the time now?
You know, nothing is difficult when you love doing it. Nothing is difficult. It was such a pleasure sitting on that scooter with my cassettes on the carrier and going to shops and convincing them to keep. I didn't have to convince them too hard, I must admit. I was already quite known here in Goa, and they were happy to keep my cassettes for sale, and I always loved doing it all myself. Like, you know, as you know, I wrote my own songs, the lyrics, I composed the music, I got myself a multi-track tape recorder where I played each and every instrument myself. I did the mixing of the songs myself, and I designed the album covers myself. And then I came to know about other artists who were also one-man kind of industries. You know, they liked to do it all themselves. Some people will call them control freaks. Some people will call them egocentric or whatever. But it's the way that some people work. Some artists work like this, and some artists work beautifully in collaborations with others. I guess I'm more of a loner, so I can only flourish if I'm working alone. Or maybe I've never been lucky enough to meet a partner, a musical partner, like how Paul McCartney met John Lennon, and the two of them created brilliant compositions. And right here in Goa, Jacinth Vaz and M. Boyer, they had a fantastic collaboration for many years. But unfortunately, most of these great collaborations end up in very bitter fights.
Yes.
Both in the case of John Lennon and Paul McCartney, as well as Jacinth Vaz and M. Boyer, and they never collaborated again. Each one acted separately. But while the Lorna and Chris Perry, okay, Lorna was not composing. Chris Perry was doing all the compositions, and the lyric writing. But he had her as his muse, and he was writing specially for her kind of singing, for her voice, and it was a fantastic collaboration which resulted in fantastic songs. But then they had a fallout and a very, very bitter fight and relationship after that.
So you were lucky to have all in one.
So unless I fight with myself, I'm safer, you know. Yeah. I can always keep on working on my own.
Very few of us know that you have a degree in architecture. And in one of your interviews, we heard that you had obsession for being an architect. Then why from architecture to music?
Like I told you, it was put in my mind that I had to have a serious profession, right? So the choices were what at that time, especially engineering, law, business, medicine. And none of that really appealed to me until a cousin of mine came back from London, and the whole family was fussing over him. Oh, he's come down and he's an architect. I think, was 6 or 7 years old only. And I asked my father, what is an architect? What does an architect do? And he said he designs houses. That's the only way that he could explain to a child. And I said, design? But I used to love drawing. You know, so I said, and everybody fusses so much over you if you design houses. I want to be an architect. That's easy. And it remained, yeah, you're right in calling it an obsession. And that remained as an obsession all my life. And without really knowing that besides designing houses, there was also so much mathematics and so much calculus and trigonometry and other subjects which I hated and which I still hate, which are not really my line at all. I'm more inclined towards the artistic subjects. I went blindly into it.
But you finished your degree, 5 years.
I finished it just to please my father and to follow his advice. His advice was very wise. Because when I was in the 3rd year of architecture, I realized I was never going to work as an architect. I realized that music is my thing, and I'm going to make this my profession. I don't care how much money it makes or doesn't make. I want to be happy with what I do. And at that time, there was no future in music, especially in Goa. And I'm proud to say, in fact, that at that time when I took this choice and after I made it in music, let's say when I became more known, my music became more known, and there were interviews of mine being published and being aired. I'm happy to say that influenced quite a few people at that time. And one example which comes to mind is my good friend, who now is my good friend, Prasad Pankar. You know, at that time he was a fan. So he used to come for my concerts and used to meet me backstage. I remember him telling me that he was working for a bank,
Yes.
and that he had seen my interview, and that now he felt inspired to give up the job and to take up photography, which was his passion.
Yes.
And of course, I could not tell him, yes, that's what you should do, because I can't interfere
Yes.
in somebody else's life. But I'm glad that I was able to inspire him, for example, to do that, because look at where he has reached in photography. He has started
Yes, his own
maybe
academy.
Yeah, the best academy in Goa, and as a banker, I don't know whether he would be as known, especially if he didn't like it as much.
Remo, you never chased films, and people always try to chase the Bollywood industry. Tell us something about your Bollywood journey. How was it? It was the short journey that you had.
It was lovely actually, because I had heard terrible things about Bollywood, that you have to be very careful with the film people because they are cheaters and they won't pay you, they'll exploit you. But nothing like that ever happened to me with any music director or film producer that I sang for. And luckily for me, the films came to me, I was just sitting in Goa, and out of the blue and 1 year especially, after I released my first cassette, it was picked up by Shyam Benegal, and he was going to do Trikal, and he heard my first cassette, and he asked me to do music for Trikal. And Gul Anand, he heard my first cassette, the same cassette, and which was gifted to him, in fact, by the father of the guy who many years later happened to marry my sister.
Oh.
It was just gifted to Gul Anand, who was his friend. Frolan Mashad is the father of my brother-in-law. Anyway, and he asked me to do Jalwa.
I know.
Both these in the same year. So after that, I never went even looking for Bollywood, forget chasing Bollywood. But Bollywood happened to come to me. It was just another stroke.
We just love your Humma Humma song.
Thank you.
And the remake that was made later on is the original one is much more appealing to us than the new one.
Well, I don't want to comment
still
on that,
but it's
you
my
for saying
personal
so.
view,
Okay.
and we just love you for that.
Okay, thank you.
As I said, as we discussed earlier, we have remakes of the 90s songs now. There are so many songs which are remade. What do you think is the difference between the music then and music now?
Well, in the 90s, the beginning of synthesizers and drum machines, they had already started being introduced into music, and that was a big change that took place from earlier music to what's happening now. It's so much the computer involvement in all the music, the creation of the music as well as the recording of the music. But at that time, everything was more live. If you were in the studio, you had your backing orchestra or your backing group accompanying you, and I'm talking about years and years ago, and you sang at the same time. So if there was one mistake that one musician made, for example, the whole song had to be performed again until you got the recording right. And today, each musician can record his track separately until he gets it perfect. Most of the tracks are programmed on the computer, so it's easy to get them super perfect. In fact, so perfect that it's not human. But now the human ear has got so used to hearing music which is technically perfect in timing and everything, that if we hear a live recording, we can make out what we call faults. But at that time, even the greatest bands on earth, if you listen to the recordings, there are some notes or some timings which today we might call faults. But they just went naturally as part of nature. So that's a huge difference, I think, from that music to now. And of course, let's not even talk about music which is purely created on the computer, such as techno and EDM, most of EDM and stuff like that.
Remo, you were a big name in rock music and Indian pop music. Looking back at that time, there was no support. You got there on your own. Looking back at that time, How does it feel, and what was your inspiration then?
My only inspiration was my love for music, you know, that's all, and I just had to do it. It's like you have something inside you, you have to let it out. That's all. There was no compulsion, like I have to make it. If I earn this much by this year, I'll carry on with this profession, otherwise I'll change. So there was no question of that. There was no question of this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do, you know.
So how do you feel when you look back now, that time you had, how do you feel, your feelings on that?
I feel really great, I feel really nice that I did it. And I'm really glad that I did it on my own, and I did it on my own after having decided to live in Seoul at that time, right here in this house, which is my great-grandparents' house, grandparents, my parents, they've all born here. And so I returned here from Panjim, and I started to live here when there were no telephones, you know. So I did my whole career, in fact, without a telephone here, including the time when I started to release my albums in Bombay. I started to do concerts all over India without a telephone. So I had somebody who was working for me, who used to drive to Panjim every day with a bunch of, with a bunch of telexes, which had to be sent from one of those centers in Panjim. Where I used to receive telexes from all these people, and then he would come back with those telexes. I would answer them. On the next day, he would drive to Panjim, answer all that with the telex. Electricity used to fail all the time. It still does, but at that time when it used to go off, you didn't know on which day it would come back.
Yeah.
At that time, if it went off, it could be gone for a week, you know. And every day, at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, the lights used to, the tube lights wouldn't come on, because the voltage used to drop so badly. Your fridge used to go off. So I couldn't do any recording that way. So I had to buy a small little generator. I used to always say, before inspiration, there was perspiration, because I had to fill that generation with kerosene at that time, when I had to pull that rope until it started, and only then I could go into my studio and record. It's like you knowing every part of your profession hands-on, you know. You know about the making, about the recording, about the writing, about the composing, the making of the album covers, marketing, designing the ads, putting up the ads, distribution, collecting money from the shops. Which is another task.
So that even that you used to do on your own?
I had to, no? I had to. Who would do it for me? Yeah. And then eventually I gave the whole distribution to Sinari, for example, who had his own, network. So I gave this distribution to him, I think, for a few years before I received offers from the record companies in Bombay. The same record companies who had said no to me first, but they said that, original music in English will not work in India. I knew they were wrong, because my songs might have been in English, but they were about India. Ode to Graham Bell was about the telephones and how badly they were. And it was all satire, making fun of things. After Jalwa and Trikal worked, then the same record companies who had said no to me, they came back to me. And then I could sit and choose the one I wanted. So yeah, when I look back at those years, I'm really happy that I went through it all.
You did the first Pepsi ads, the launch ads. You set the trend. So anything in mind now to set a trend like that?
No, like I told you, these things came to me, I'm very bad at, I'm not a go-getter. It just so happened that Pepsi approached me to do this ad. And I was very honored, because I knew that in America, for example, they'd chosen Michael Jackson, who at that time was the greatest pop star in America. And I knew that Pepsi had a reputation for choosing the most successful pop or rock star in each country. In America, it was Michael Jackson, who was also international, of course. But for example, in Latin America, there would be the Latin American rock stars and pop stars. In France, there would be a French rock or pop star. So when they chose me, I felt like it was an award I was receiving, because at that time there were no awards for pop music or rock music. It was not even acknowledged. The existence of pop and rock was not even acknowledged officially in India. It was only folk music and classical music. I still remember they wanted me to do a Michael Jackson song in Hindi. And I said no, I want to compose my own. And they said, well, for that we'll have to get permission from America, Pepsi, and their feeling was that an Indian would not be able to compose good enough music, good enough pop or rock music for Pepsi. So I said, try me, and I wrote the first jingle, I recorded it, which was Open Up, Open Up, Open Up.
Yes, I saw that.
Hey, here, right choice, baby. I think
Yes.
that was the one. Yeah, the one with Juhi Chawla.
Yes.
Yeah, and they sent it to America and they approved it, and that was it.
We still remember whatever work you have done. We still cherish it.
I'm so blessed, because really, in this day and age where you have a huge hit one year, the next year no one knows your name, nobody remembers you.
No, sir.
I feel really blessed that,
you won't believe it. We were actually taking your names. I was discussing with him that yes, we want to interview Remo. My husband also told that you should interview him. I said, where do I get him? I contact him, and the day I got your contact and I spoke to you, I actually played your song and I danced for a while. And we want to tell you that this is the message from whole Goa, that we still love you, and we still, whatever you do, whatever the songs that you have made, we still remember it. And anything that you want to tell our viewers, any message you want to give out to people?
I think the main thing I want to say is thank you for still loving me. If you still love me,
Yes.
if you the viewer, Sureka says that you love me, but I'm not sure. If you love me still, thank you. And I'm really lucky if you still know my songs and remember me, because I'm blessed. That's all I can say. Thank you.
So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for taking time for us and accepting our invitation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine.
That was Remo Fernandes for you. Stay tuned with us. Dev bare karu.